Hello dear you who is watching. Welcome to Bibi's cooking show where I share wholesome and delicious recipes. Today we are going to make Belgian stew. It is such a comforting, delicious dish and very simple to make. It looks a little bit intimidating, but it's very simple, and let me take you through the process of making this stew. It's basically just beef and onion. That is the substance of the stew. You could add carrots or mushrooms, but I think it's quite beautiful, simple as it is. Yeah, so let's look at the ingredients that we need for the stew. We need beef stew meat. Honestly, I don't know what the cut is called, but go to your butcher and ask for beef for a stew. And then we use the onion. The liquid is bone broth. I make my own and it's very simple. You basically just boil bones in salty water for many hours, and then you get this beautiful gelatinous bone broth that you can use for stews and soups and so on, and it's so good for you, so recommend doing that. Then we will use sourdough starter to thicken the stew. You can also just use flour and that works well, but it's even better for you if it's fermented. You can also use potato mash because we will have potato mash or mashed potatoes with this stew. So you could also just add a little bit of the mashed potatoes to the stew and thicken it that way. And then we will use mustard. Traditionally, actually, you put dark beer into the stew, but I never have dark beer and I don't really like consuming alcohol or beer or anything, so I found a way to just use molasses instead. And oh, I forgot, we will also use a bit of vinegar, so that is kind of our substitute for the dark beer. But go ahead, also the other reason why I don't use dark beer is because if you use both bone broth and beer, you have a lot of liquid, and yeah, so I'd rather use more bone broth as a liquid, you know? And then the spices are very simple: black pepper, thyme, rosemary, and bay leaf. So those are the ingredients. And we will just sear the meat in butter. So let's get started. Yeah, it's a very simple process. We will sear the meat. We will put in the onion raw. We will not pre-cook or brown the onion because this will cook for quite a while, like 2-3 hours. And we don't want the onion to be a complete mush in the end, so you don't want to cook the onion before, just add them in raw. So I will now melt in the butter and I will chop up the meat. Great if you can have it pre-chopped, that makes your life a little bit easier. So I have 50 grams of butter that goes into the pan. Butter is melted and I've weighed out the meat and it is 450 grams, and that is a good amount for 2 people, I would say. I've chopped up the meat in a size like this, reasonably big chunks, and now I will just sear the meat on medium-high just to brown it a bit and to seal the meat. We will do it in batches. So we have to have a bowl to put the meat in, and then that's basically the work that we need to do for this stew. The rest is super easy. So let's start searing the meat. It's good to use a tongue like this to flip the meat. I will just set it aside in a bowl like this. I think I'll be doing it in 3 batches. Actually, a good idea is to melt the butter for a while to just evaporate some of the water in it. So then you have more oil. We don't need it to cook for a long time, just a quick sear. Oh yeah, and if your meat has a lot of fat on it, then go ahead and use less butter for the searing. Mine is relatively lean, so we don't have to think about the spices now, they will come in later. Okay, this is my last batch. So now I will turn the heat down, add back in the cooked meat, with all the juices. You want to really clean the bowl here for all the flavor. Good. Now we can just add in the broth and let it start cooking. But you see how gelatinous this is? This is good stuff. Bloops. Yeah, let's add the onion. Let me weigh it as well. Okay, we're just gonna peel the onion. We don't want to cut it into small pieces. I would say let's cut it in quarters. What a funny thing that we just start crying when we chop onions. It's normal. That's normal. Everyone does it. Okay, we have almost 400 grams of onion. The broth has melted now. That's beautiful. And now I will just chop the onion and add it in. Super easy, right? I mean, it takes no time. It just takes a long time to cook, but that's it, you know. Preparing it is quite easy. Now the fun part, we can start adding the spices. Let's start with some pepper. A good amount of pepper in here. This was probably like half a teaspoon of ground pepper. You can push those onions into the broth a bit. But it's good to have the meat on the bottom and the onion, it's fine that the onion sticks out a little bit. And now we will add some mustard. And by the way, there's salt in the bone broth, of course, so we don't want to salt it until in the end. We can always adjust flavors in the end. Yeah, let's not overdo it. Last time I made the stew, I added too much of the molasses and the stew was really sweet and that was not good. So I'd rather you add more spices and so on in the end. So I'm going to put a good tablespoon of mustard in here, you see? Yeah, half a teaspoon of thyme. Oh, it already smells good. And then for rosemary, I always take it with my hands and then crush it a little bit. So let's do that once and twice, or 3 times. 3 pinches of rosemary. Yeah, that's good. And now we want to lower the heat because we don't want to boil this too harshly. Also for the bone broth, I've heard that it damages the collagen. What else we need? We need a splash of vinegar. Let's see. 1. Yeah, let's start with 2 teaspoons of vinegar and see. And then the last part, which is the molasses. I love molasses. I think we can add a tablespoon of molasses. Okay, let's see how it goes. Nope, we don't. I will say like half a tablespoon. And we can always add more in the end if we want a little more sweetness. Well, that's it, guys. Now we just want to mix it a little bit so that we get all the flavors into the bone broth, not sitting on the onion. Oh yeah, and the amount of bone broth we had. It's probably around 250 grams of bone broth. And that's actually on the higher end. I forgot that I usually use less. Yeah, so this just means that we need to cook this without the lid for quite a while, just to get rid of some water in the bone broth. Yeah, so now we will just let it cook for 2 to 3 hours. But we will, check on it and maybe stir it a little bit, but you don't actually have to, nothing is sticking to the bottom, so you don't really have to stir it much. We will add the sourdough starter in the very end, once it's basically ready. We will make some mashed potatoes. I will not show you how to make mashed potatoes because it's pretty straightforward. Traditionally, people also eat it with fries. I like mashed potatoes because they are really good at soaking up the sauce in the stew. Yeah, make your mashed potatoes and we will see each other in a little bit. I forgot to show you the bay leaves that I put in. I put 3 bay leaves in there as well. So here is the stew, and don't stir it too much because you really want to keep the onion on top and the meat on the bottom, and just watch it transform into a beautiful stew. Alrighty guys, it's been 3 hours almost. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna test a piece of onion that looks the least cooked to you. And we will see how soft it is, because we really want to make sure that this is well cooked. It needs a bit more time. I cooked it without the lid for most of the time. I just recently put the lid on, so now it needs some more time to fully soften the onion. In the meantime, we can prepare the thickener. I'll just take a glass and I will put a spoonful of sourdough starter in here. And then we will take some liquid from the stew and pour it into the glass. Let me show you. Like that. And then we just stir this up. We add a little more. And now we have our soup thickener ready to go in. But I will wait until the onion is fully cooked. So see you in a bit. Okay, so now the onion has cooked to a perfect consistency, in my opinion. And yeah, I've cooked this for almost 4 hours. But I think that was because I had the lid off for such a long time. And yeah, so this takes a little bit of, you know, paying attention and seeing how much bone broth you have in here and how high the heat is and so on. So, you know, it's difficult to say exactly how long to cook this, but definitely closer to 3 hours, not 2 hours. Anyway, so now we can add our stew thickener. So I mixed it up here and I'll just stir it in. And we have to cook it for a little bit so that we don't have raw sourdough in here. I think actually I evaporated a bit too much liquid. I would like a little more sauce in here, but it's fine. Every batch of stew is always going to be a little bit different, so that's fine. I will just turn this off now. So this is the consistency. Okay, now it's actually time to taste it to make sure that the flour has cooked, and also just if we need to add more molasses or mustard or pepper or salt. Oh, this is just so good. And your whole house will smell like a professional restaurant, like a Belgian pub. Amazing, amazing. I think no, we're done. That's perfect. Yeah, no more of anything. Let's eat. My, oh my, is she beautiful? Look at that. Okay, let's try it. Very, very good. Perfect thickness of the sauce, and onion is cooked perfectly, and meat is flaky and tender, and flavors are good. But be careful with the molasses because you really don't want this too sweet. This is like on the max. Yeah. Recommend. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you try this recipe. ask me questions if you have any questions. Yeah, and I hope you will have a very cozy fall and enjoy lots of delicious stews. And I have another stew if you want, which is like a tomato base stew, Turkish lamb stew, and you can watch it right here. Yeah, I'm just happy to share wholesome, delicious recipes with you, and I hope you enjoy. Okay, see you next time. Bye.